What is up, ballers? We are back in the house with you guys. So exciting, Jeremy. You're the new permanent, semi-permanent
I've
co-host, I guess,
I've
right?
never been prouder than to be associated with this lovable green tennis ball.
Oh, thank you. And we're so psyched that you agreed to be on because you're super knowledgeable, and of course you have your um, AnEarful blog where you talk about music, and there's a mailing list, so you should go to that. It's anearful.blogspot.com. Is
Actually,
that right?
anearful.substack.com.
Substack.com, and I'll put a link in the description. I don't have a slide
Yeah,
prepared,
blogger's old school.
unfortunately. And let's see who we have in the chat, Jeremy. It's not showing up yet. We
Okay.
have Corey Simons. Let me just make sure we're actually live. Um,
I see Corey and Epsilon
oh yeah,
Omegas.
it's going live. There's a freaking commercial for something.
Yeah, skip ads.
So yeah, skip ads, ballers. So listen, ballers. We're gonna be talking about the summer shows. So tell us in the chat what your summer shows are. Epsilon Omega 5 is here, formerly known as SOHGD. What's up, Epsilon Omega 5? Formerly the arts, formerly known as SOH. We got what's up, Corey Simons? How are you? It's so great that you guys came back, even though we've been kind of out of the loop. What's up, Yo-Ya? And Pirate Captain is in the house.
All right.
I forgot to give you guys all woos. So Yo-Ya, Corey, Epsilon Omega 5. All right, let's get to it. You went to a lot of shows, Jeremy.
I've gone to a few so far, yes.
And I only did the ones that you've gone to, and then I added some myself in between that aren't on this list. But which of these, we're going to go through these, and I have pictures for each one, but which was your favorite show that you went to?
I think of all of these, I'd probably have to pick Florist. They're just one of my
Florist.
favorite bands.
Yeah, I'm
And
shrinking
they made
you.
my number one album of 2022, their
Ooh.
self-titled album, Florist.
Florist,
And
really? Wow.
and we got to see them at Storm King, which, if you don't know, is a 500-acre sculpture museum in
Oh,
upstate New
yeah.
York. So you're
Wow.
sitting outdoors
Hold on. Wait,
on the
wait, wait,
grass.
wait. Tell me when we get to the slide.
Okay.
We need to go into it. Okay, we're gonna go to it here. Hold on a second. Um, First, we'll do Florist first. Yeah. So tell me about it. You're at Storm King.
Florist was June 10th. So you're at Storm King. There's food trucks. You're walking around. There's a DJ named Ebing who really made the good vibes. And the stage is just in the middle of a field. And there's enormous Mark de Suvero sculptures in the background. And as night descends, Florist takes the stage. And I wasn't sure what to expect, but they are just one of the great live bands at this point. I hadn't seen them in several years.
Are
Maybe
they like vocal based rock? Like, what is the appeal?
I describe them as indie psychedelic folk
Oh, cool.
in that realm. They just they move together as a group. The tempos shift in unusual
Florist.
ways,
Your
and
top band of the year. Yeah.
yeah, they are just some. They make some of the most beautiful songs, and there's kind of wisdom to their lyrics. Emily
They
Sprague is the lead vocalist,
Is she the
and
watermelon eating person at
yes,
the
she is the
forefront?
watermelon eating person. This picture looks very old. Their vibe is a bit different than this picture,
I
but
just thought it was so charming. I had to
yeah,
use
they
it.
really put on a fantastic show. One of the things I love about them is every sound is so specific. They don't just plug in a guitar. They plug in a specific guitar, they tune it and make it sound a certain way that's very distinctive. And
Wow.
yeah, it's magical. It's
Georgia,
magical.
so everyone, Florist's or their album Florist is the one to watch.
Yeah.
Georgia Constitution Media, thank you so much for the super chat or for the. That is so kind. Wow, really appreciate that. I can't even believe it. Thank you so much.
Woohoo!
All right, let's go to the next show. The
So the
Cure.
Cure.
So I
A lot
mean,
of talk
this
about the Cure.
lot of talk about it. I mean, in it, like I watched a lot of footage of different shows. I was not able to go because of different obligations. But let me tell you, ballers, Captain Love Handles, thank you.
Amazing.
Well, this
You
love
guys are the best.
super chat. So the Cure came to Atlanta. They did 2 shows, but I watched a lot of footage, and the thing that really struck me was that Robert Smith seems to really love performing. I mean, he was crying. There was a lot of footage of him crying, with
I had friends who
tears of
went who said
joy.
it was absolutely spectacular.
And he sounds great. And I mean, the band sounds amazing. I don't. How much of those players are from the olden days? Do you have any
I
idea?
haven't done the research. I believe Lowell Tolhurst is still in the band.
Oh no, he's gone, long
No, he's
gone.
gone. Oh,
Simon, there's a guy named Simon who's still in the band, and I think he's maybe from the late
and
'80s or
is
'90s period.
Reeves Gabrel still playing with them?
I should have before I
Yeah,
before I brought this up. I should have known the answer.
he was Bowie's guitarist for many years, and I think I heard he was playing
Yeah,
Cure.
that would be amazing. Yeah, Reeves Gabrels. Yeah, he was in his the black white tie, black
He was
noise,
in
and so
Tin
forth.
Machine. He's on
Tin Machine,
Earthling.
right?
Great guitarist, but don't hold me to that. That may just.
Yes. Now, if anyone knows, put it in the comments. If anyone's smarter
Yeah.
than me, what an idiot, right?
I also love that he went up against Ticketmaster and got all those people refunded their junk fees,
Yes.
as President Biden calls them. The
I mean,
junk fee.
he just
He's
is.
just a real. He's a
He's a
mensch.
he's a mensch. He's a stand-up guy. He actually is, strangely enough, like a kind of normal person.
Yeah. I do
Like,
not own one Cure record. I don't actually
oh,
like them
you
that
don't?
much.
Oh, I
My
love.
son
Okay.
is a much bigger fan than I am, but I thought Boys Don't Cry was a great album. The first album.
Yeah, it is a great record. I have a handful of I have like 3 of the early records, and I have a bunch of the stuff on CD.
I've
But
tried many
like,
times, but it
I
just
I
does not really
had
do it for me.
I went to see them in 1989 on the Disintegration tour,
Mm.
and so and I saw them at that time period. And I also had video of them, and so I had a video of them, the Staring at the Sea singles
Yep.
videos,
Did
and
they
like
do any new material on this tour? Does anybody know?
there was a bit of it, but it's interesting because they're one of those bands that like just kind of maintained their sound somewhat, and so
Yeah.
it just doesn't sound like it's qualitatively different than the
Hmm.
old
It's
stuff.
it's just kind of hilarious to me because I've read interviews with him for years, and he's been promising a double album, 2 new albums,
I
this, that, the
I
other thing, and
I,
it's like Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page is always saying, "I've got new music on the way." It's just not happening.
I'm not gonna go into the set list. I could go to
You
setlist.fm,
could,
and
yeah.
but we're gonna move on because we have a million of these. Hiss Golden Messenger. Tell me about this. Is it a guy or a band?
His Golden Messenger is a band. It's always MC Taylor, and he's got a great group around him now. There's been changes over the years with Scott Hirsch, Phil Cook being in the band at times, but now he's got a solid group of guys who. The thing that amazes me about them, and I've seen his many times, is they don't need any warm up. All he does is he strums a couple of chords, and the whole band just goes in. So you just can't. You start dancing right away and moving, and he's got an incredible catalog of songs going back till 2011, 2012. Tons of great records, tons of great songs. I love seeing him play. We saw him at the Sound Mind Festival, which was a free festival out in Brooklyn. It was pouring rain during
Mm-hmm.
much of the festival. At one point, he just looked out of the crowd, and everybody's there with their umbrellas, trying to stay dry. And he just
What's
goes,
the
he
what's the
says, he
style
says,
instrumentation like? Go ahead. No,
he
go
just says, "This is crazy, but also kind of perfect."
ahead. Like,
you
what
know,
is the instrumentation
instrumentation.
like?
Well, you could put them in the Americana genre. They have
Right,
a
right.
Hammond B3 organ, 2 guitars,
Oh,
drum and
that's nice.
bass. He plays guitar. This guy, now his name is escaping me. He's got an amazing lead guitarist. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Chris Burner. I call him Hiss Burner, but his name is Chris
nice.
Burner.
Chris Burn.
He's
Man,
always on fire. He's a fantastic guitar player. Great musicians, just great songs. the vocals were a little, you go to an outdoor show, you sometimes don't know what you're going to get. The vocals were a little hard to hear from him, but I knew all the songs anyway, so that was fine. He gave a great performance. And actually, it was the same concert as Iron and Wine.
Oh, nice. Oh, Iron and Wine, which I think is about to come up here. Hold on a
Yeah, so we
second.
could
Let's
talk
go to.
about them because it was Pom Pom Squad and then his Golden Messenger, and there were some other bands that we weren't that interested in, so we went and got coffee. But then I've never seen Iron and Wine. I've been listening to him for many years.
That's the bearded guy, right?
Yeah, that's the bearded guy. I think this picture is of him collaborating with Andrew Bird, but
Okay.
he performed solo when we saw him, and the rain had cleared. He's a magnetic and quirky performer. I don't know if you've heard his songs. They're these kind of hushed, folky songs. He sings almost in a whisper at times,
Right.
but he's got this guitar technique where he uses guitar as percussion and guitar at the same time, kind of,
Oh, yeah, I
but
like
not in a
that.
really show-offy
Yes.
way. He just makes these little accents. And at one point, he
Cool.
started beatboxing, and he was quite good at it.
What's the best Iron and Wine record?
The best Iron and Wine record. I
Like
love
if
the
somebody
Shepherd's
is
Dog. Shepherd's
Shepherd's
Dog is
Dog is
really
a good one to
fantastic.
start. Good one to start with.
Our Endless Numbered Days is probably the classic.
Our Endless Numbered Days or The Shepherd's Dog. One of
Yeah,
those two
they're both
records.
great. I mean, he's all his records are good, and some of them are magnificent. So, seeing him
All
live
right.
was a real bucket list item for me, and he was wonderful.
Very cool. All right, let's move on
Yeah,
here. Ballers, let me look and see if before I go to the next one, let me see. I first of all, let me say what's up, Captain Love Handles, and thank you once again, and George Constitution for the super chats. Um, Corey Simons would love to see the Cure. Yeah, I mean, it was, and this applies to the next artist we're going to talk about too. It was like a big deal, I think, for a lot of people that the Cure came out. Because it was kind of like you want to see them, even if it's just Robert Smith and a group of players that he's
hmm
leading. But I mean, he does keep. He seems like he's a good person, really. Even though people come and go from a band, there's people who stay with them for a long time.
hmm yeah,
Um, and so, but in any case, people love to come out for those acts, and I think it's been quite a few years since he's been out.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so people were so enthusiastic, and the same thing is for the next couple records, the next couple artists I'm going to talk about.
hmm
No, yo, yeah, I basically we went right into like a monthly format, um, and this is the first one in this
Yeah.
new format, which is
Okay.
basically just so we're talking more about records and music and
Yep.
focusing on that. And Jeremy's much more knowledgeable than me, than so I'm like Howard Stern and he's like Robin. All right, hold on a second. Siouxsie and the Band, not Siouxsie and the Banshees, just
Yeah,
Siouxsie.
just Susie.
Um, and she did Cool World, and I think that was might have been with the Banshees. Was it? Or was it just
I'm not
Susie Sue?
100% sure.
Um, I thought I saw Susie and the Banshees, but that seems like
Could be.
unusual. It could have been they got Severin and Budgie showed up for one show.
Yeah, yeah.
But in any case, she did a bunch of shows in Europe and stuff like that, and she did not come around my neck of the woods. I would go to see Susie in a heartbeat. I saw her in I guess it was 1988 or 89, the Peekaboo tour.
hmm
Um, and you said you saw her several times in the 80s.
I saw her 3 times, and partly that was because I think the first time I saw her, I was a little unsatisfied. The band didn't totally gel on stage, and I was
Right.
such a huge fan of their records that I just kept trying.
Which iteration of the band was
I
it?
think this was on the Kaleidoscope slash Juju tour era,
Oh, right. So it was like the golden era with John
pretty early.
McGeoch.
Yeah, yeah.
An amazing guitarist, but did he seem, because he had problems with drinking and
I
stuff? Did he
I
seem like
felt
he was
that the
wasted?
band it was good, but I just felt they didn't quite play together. And that may
Right.
come down to maybe him being wayward and Budgie and Severin trying to keep up. I'm not 100%
Right.
sure. And then there was one show I saw of them that it was so loud. I don't know why they did this. They turned it up so loud that you literally could only hear overtones. I could not hear the music at all,
Oh,
and my
oh
ears rang
man.
for days afterwards. So then I went and saw them a third time, and they were good. So I just kept seeing because I loved them so much at that time. Interestingly enough, Juju was the last record of theirs I bought. I bought it on import like the day it came out,
Great
listened to
album.
it obsessively for 6 months. And then after that, I bought Fireworks single, maybe the Dear Prudence single. And I find that after
Do
that,
you have these records still, Jeremy?
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I have all my Siouxsie.
Nice.
The Israel 12-inch is so awesome.
Yes.
But I like a few of their songs from there on.
Cities and Dust was
Cities
a
and Dust
classic.
is ridiculously good. So,
Yes.
but I
And
never
so
bought another record by them. Somehow we diverged. We would have,
yeah, me too. I mean, I kind of fell off after Cities and Dust and that sort of time period. I mean, and
the swimming horses,
Peekaboo,
was that what it's called? But
Swimming Horses was a hyena. That was the
yeah,
Robert
yeah.
Smith
I was
record.
also a fan of the Creatures. I like the Creatures album
Right.
quite a bit. And the double EP they put out was fantastic. Wild
Yes.
Things, I think it was called. And
Now, this is all stuff that kind of was, shout out to any of the people who are new subs from the Robert Smith Susie video.
yeah, that's a really interesting story. I love how half the band quit.
I know, I
I
know.
was
But
writing about Kaleidoscope a few years ago, and I came across that story. I was like, "Oh my
I
God, that's
know, I know.
crazy!"
Yeah, that was crazy, and you're just like, man. But hey, Budgie came on after that, and that was sort of like.
I
But in
mean,
any case,
she put out a solo album, I think, in the 2000s, but it didn't work. It
yes.
didn't work for me. There was nothing terrible about it. It just
Hmm.
didn't move me. I'm not really sure why.
The band is great. I mean, it reminds me of Bauhaus in a way, in that, it's not even just that it has like a dark themes and stuff like that, and that they're goth or something,
Yeah.
but more that they construct songs out of sound,
Hmm.
and sometimes tonal considerations are taken into account,
Yeah.
but it's not really like they're playing, you know, a song like it's traditionally known as. It's rhythmic sounds and noise, and
Yep.
and so very cool.
Firmly post punk, no blues, just
What are
the
your
chord changes and yeah,
yeah,
colorful
and
sounds.
bursts of noise and affected noises. What are your thoughts of, like, it was kind of, what are your thoughts of the performances, her new band, her performances,
Well, I
the
watched a few
videos you've seen?
videos just because I was curious. The band seems very, very good. They seem
Yes.
really solid. I'm not sure who's playing. They seem super
Yeah.
solid. She seemed a little wavering on the vocal quality, I have to say. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if she totally had the lung power
Mm-hmm.
to
And
keep
if
up,
if
but
yeah.
on some songs she sounded very good. But on other
And
songs she sounded a little shaky, and I'm not. It may just be that she hadn't rode for years,
yeah.
and I felt it was a little bit like it's a coming together of the vibes of the crowd, of the people around her music. It's a victory lap. It's a celebration. Was it going to be a great performance that illuminated her music in a new way? That's hard to say.
Right. No. No, it not really. However, I will say that you're right. The band completely nails it, and they're professionals.
Yeah.
And that there are times when I watched a good bit of the set. Honestly,
Hmm.
I mean, I watched a lot of videos. Not maybe not every song that they performed, but
Yeah.
um, there's times when she really falls into it and sounds like her old self, and you're
Yeah.
like listening to it and you're grooving along, and you're like spellbound. Like, was one moment where
Hmm.
she's like when she was able to like bring that that
Yeah.
spellbound, and it was like, yeah, and almost the crowd was so forgiving when her voice, when she had a little trouble hitting some notes or
Yeah.
something. um they were all singing in full throat,
Yeah.
along with her, so it was pretty cool. If you saw her, please comment below her.
Hmm.
Yes, Corey Simon says Iron and Wine are lovely. I was hanging with some younger coworkers, and they were listening to a song that sampled Siouxsie, which I pointed out. Nobody knew what I was talking about. It's wild they didn't know, but yeah.
Yikes.
All right, hold on a second. And then Flores, you talked about.
Gotta get a copy of Juju and Kaleidoscope.
Yeah, Juju was great. I need to like
And the first album.
I need to
The Scream is
yeah, the
also
Scream, Join Hands. I need to reacquire the first like 5, 6 records because I
yeah, Join Hands never totally worked for me. It's a little
oh
extra, I think. They're
there's
just
some
kind of
I know, but it's early. It's early,
they're
you
just
know.
avant-garding for me on Join Hands. I
Yes, it's
remember
very
none of us
avant-garde. Tell us about
none
Geese.
of us bought that. Geese
I
are a fantastic band from Brooklyn. They formed in high school a few years ago, so they're not too far out of high school. And actually, their original plan was to break up before when they graduated because they all had college acceptances and things they wanted to do. And some of them
mm-hmm.
including conservatory training for music. But then they got a record deal with Partisan. They put some songs on Spotify and somebody heard them and said, "Hey, I think I could get you guys signed." And they said, "Well, we'll only be interested if it's one of these labels." And they got offers from all of them.
Wow.
But they are that good. The interesting thing about them is their first album, I called it a kind of post-punk revivalist album and had a lot of spiky guitar and jagged rhythms and great songwriting though, and a very different sound, partly because the lead was Cameron Winter has a really deep voice. You don't hear that too often these days. He can sing really deep. So that gives
That
them a
is
little bit of a
cool.
different sound. They have
Yeah.
a guitarist, Gus Green, who is absolutely incredible. He actually reminded me of a lot of the post-punk guys combined, sort of like Robert Quine mashed up with John Barry from the Young Aborigines and some of the other guys from the post-punk era. Oh, Andy Gill from Gang of Four. Just this kind of
Mm-hmm.
action painting splatter style, especially on stage. He's just
Cool.
incredible on stage. Or they, I'm sorry. They are incredible on stage. So I wasn't expecting their live performance to be as dynamic as it was. And I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't heard all of the new album because it was 2 days before the new album, which
What's
is
the
called
new album called?
3D Country, just came out. It's on my list of the top 25 albums of the year so far. It's a terrific album.
Geese.
The thing that's different about them is that I would no longer say they're a post-punk revivalist band. They're just a great rock band. They draw on influences from the 70s that not a lot of people are doing right now. Like Tim Buckley's last couple of albums when he
Right,
got
right,
funky and did Blue Eyed Soul. They have a couple of Blue Eyed Soul songs on the record. And they also
right,
have some kind of proggy, what I call proggy freakouts, where there's
right.
tempo changes and then they just go, you know. So
Yeah.
seeing them on stage was just incredible. They were so much fun to watch. And we were outdoors. It was at the Wells Fargo stage, which is in an area called Hudson Yards, one of the newly built areas in the far west side of Manhattan.
Yep.
Just a great show. And opening that show was a project called Sweet 93,
Yep.
which is a former winner of The Voice. So The Voice spawned this artist who was actually doing something indie, kind of psychedelic indie shoegaze pop rock.
Yeah, that is
Quite
cool.
good. They had 4 guitars going on stage at one point. Quite good. The drummer was a little bit behind the beat, I felt, maybe just not quite creative enough for what they were doing.
Right.
But it was a really good opener. We were definitely ready for Geese when Geese came out. Geese nailed it, and they are on a cross country tour. Definitely see them. If you're not convinced by the record,
See
then you should
Geese.
be.
Okay,
You
cool.
may be surprised by the live show because it's it's even more dynamic than the record. Just
That's
incredible.
amazing. Very cool.
I have a video
And
up of one of the songs on the AnEarful's YouTube channel.
oh, cool. Well, I'll have to put a link to that below.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
AnEarful.tv or whatever they call
All right,
it.
let's bang through our next ones.
Yep, let's do it.
All right, I actually took this. Went to this show, and I took it because, as you guys know, I interviewed David J, our old pal. and I was able to. I wasn't really able to hang out with him, but I was able to get him a record backstage, and which he appreciated, which was his first record that he had ever bought. Copy of Reggae Superstars number 2 from
That's so
Volume
awesome. You
Two
found him a copy of that?
from Trojan Records. Yeah, I did. There was only one copy of for sale in the States, and it was pretty battered. In fact, I normally would have just returned it, but I just cleaned it as well as I could, and
That's badass. That's
and
badass,
and
Dennis.
and I got it to him, and then I got a little text from him with a picture of the record that was like, "Hey, thanks," which was cool
So what
because
venue did they? What venue were they at there?
they were at the Coca-Cola Roxy, which is in the Battery part of Atlanta, which is it's like where
Okay.
the Brave Stadium is, the baseball
Okay.
team.
So is
And
that
so
like a 5,000 capacity
yeah,
venue?
something like that. It was an amazing show. Um, you know, we were talking about like Siouxsie and The Cure. Love and Rockets is one of these bands that people were thrilled to see them back. It's a three-piece, it's all the guys from Bauhaus without Peter Murphy.
Hmm.
They,
Right.
when you look at the art, we were talking about how we knew all of the Bauhaus stuff and were, Johnny come latelys to Love and Rockets. When you look at the timeline, Bauhaus was around for a few years. Love and Rockets was probably making music for 40 or something like that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah. What I
they
remember of them, I haven't listened to them in a while. There's
it's
kind of a sleeker, more rhythmic take
yeah, it's
on the goth.
funky, it's
Yeah.
groovy, it's much more like bass line driven. The
Yeah.
guitar parts sound like Daniel Ash's guitar parts from Bauhaus, you know? And
Hmm.
they have, I'm alive. They had that I'm So Alive song,
Yeah. No, I know it well. I heard it many
and
times.
then they also have, they played their cover of "Ball of Confusion" by the Temptations, which is amazing. Hey,
Mm.
hey, and they did a bunch of their classic songs. I only have a couple of their records. I need to get more of them, but it was an amazing show. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I went with Professor Dan, who has been on the show before.
Sweet.
And yeah, and I took this photo, by the way.
It's a great shot.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
And
their
now
set
then,
looks very cool.
yeah, it was cool. It kept changing. Like this was just like a
Yeah.
projection. There was a lot of light based
So like
stuff.
those circular things there. It's very cool.
Yeah, this was like a hippie kind of theme, but yeah, those circular things had lights on them as well. All
Hmm.
right, let's move on. Jimmy Whispers. Tell us about Jimmy Whispers.
Jimmy Whispers, believe it or not, the same night we saw Geese, then we headed out to Brooklyn and we went to Baby's All Right, which is a very cool venue, one of my favorites, but I hadn't been there since before the pandemic. And they were having a free show, like a late night show.
Yeah,
Jimmy Whispers was the headliner. Tomberlin was DJing. That's what kind of drew us out there. We thought, oh, Tomberlin's going to be there. Let's do it. She put out one of my favorite records from last year. So she was there. We saw her hanging out. And Jimmy Whispers is very, very quirky. And the stage show is kind of like, I'm semi angry at everybody, but I'm going to do these very short songs. I'm going to hit the microphone in my head. And it was a little bit antic. But then when I went
right,
back and listened to the record, I was like, this guy is a really good, quirky songwriter. He's a very good songwriter. And he sings on the record, he's got a bit more control over his voice. He was kind of barking some stuff, but the energy was there. At one point, he dashed off the stage and he was standing on this banister and he just kept on singing. So the crowd loved it. It was a lot of fun. I've got a video of that on my YouTube as well. And opening that before him was a band called Lion Limb, which is a guy called Stuart Branaugh who used to play with Angel Olsen. And he's been quiet for the last couple of years, put out a really good album in 2021. So he's kind of workshopping some new songs. He played some of the old songs. He's got a record coming in spring 2024. I asked him after the show. It's very moody. The guitar is heavily treated and he plays to a lot of backing tracks. And then he has a drummer who's incredibly precise, just these very tight, kind of sharp beats. But I just kind of like there was sort of a rain swept vibe. You know, he's wearing an overcoat or a raincoat and just
Yeah.
unleashing these echoed and chorused guitar lines,
It sounds
and
cool.
really
Is it like a
good.
Daniel
Yeah, no, it
Johnston
was
kind
super
of
cool.
Sebado vibe
No,
with
I think it was
drums?
a little more urban than that. A
Okay.
little
More.
sleeker.
Okay.
Like I said, rain swept, kind of
Okay.
lonely vibe. I loved it. And his record, I think it's called The Spiral or something like that, from 2021 is really good. And if you go online, you can find him on stage playing with Angel Olsen. So that's kind of cool too. Very
Very
talented guy.
cool. Cool. All right, let's cruise through these ones because we got a couple
Lion
more.
Wind, Etron de
Et,
l'air.
yes, who are these guys?
Etron de l'air are a band from the Sahara, from Niger, and they are the most popular wedding band in the Sahara region. I loved their album Agadez from last year, and my daughter actually won tickets to see them through something called Do NYC, which is always having these contests, and we're always entering them and not winning. And then she won, so we got to go to the Music Hall of Williamsburg, and it was like a 90-minute party. They just jam for 90 minutes. They play song after song. It's kind of these chiming, long guitar lines and very danceable rhythms. Not really a
Right.
backbeat, but just kind of on
Like
top
a
of the
high
beat,
life?
kind of a shuffle. Yeah, a little bit of that. A little bit of that. They're also, you can put them adjacent to the desert blues sound of, say, Tanarawan or Tamacrest, but they're a lot more celebratory than that, I guess, because they play a lot of weddings. So it's just a party vibe. And they were super happy to be there. They had actually played their first US concerts ever in spring of 2023. So they loved it so much they came back for more. And they're touring the country.
That's cool. So
Fantastic.
it's like a high life thing, right? Like a
It's a little bit like that, but it's different. You just have to hear it. I put it more with the guitar bands of the desert.
very cool.
Yeah,
Um
it's just all guitars, two guitars, bass and drums, and vocals. Just wonderful, wonderful stuff. We had a blast, and it was my daughter's first time at Music Hall of Williamsburg, so she really enjoyed that. We went down, had a cocktail, so it was like a really nice scene. Opening for the band was a group called Basic, which
mhm.
is Chris Forsyth from the Solar Motel Band, a duo he's doing with another guitarist, two guitars and a drum machine, kind of post punk and avant garde and arty. Very different vibe, but it set it up nicely for a Trondole.
Very cool. All right, let's cruise along here. I'm trying to the smile is like a hold on, I'm going to move the chat so everyone can see Tom. Tell us about Smile.
The
It's a
Smile,
Radiohead.
it's very interesting because they put out a great record last year. This is a Radiohead spin-off band, as you can see. You've got Tom York, you've got Johnny Greenwood, and then the other guy is Tom Skinner, who's an incredible drummer who I saw last year in Central Park playing with Sons of Kemet. If you don't know Sons of Kemet,
Yeah, the
that
Blue
is
Note band.
they're on Blue Note. They're a British jazz band. Shabaka Hutchings, Theon Cross on tuba, Tom Skinner, and another drummer whose name I just can't remember. But that was one of the great concerts we saw last year. And I liked the Smile album a lot, but it felt a bit familiar. Like I
Right.
know these guys, I know what they're doing. So it wasn't on my top 25. It was on my best of rock. Really, really good. But then we won tickets for that too. And we went out to the Forest Hills Tennis Stadium.
Nice.
I had not been there since I saw the Talking Heads there in the 80s when they did the Stop Making Sense tour.
Nice. Cool.
So this was the funny part is that I'm standing outside. My daughter was having a little train trouble getting there. We were coming from different locations. And I hear the band start to play, and it sounds just like the record. And I was kind of like, okay, it sounds really good. If that's what they're going to do, that's fine. By the
Yeah.
time we got to our seat, they were on another plane entirely. They were just jamming, making this
Nice.
incredible noise. Johnny Greenwood's playing with the bow like Jimmy Page, and they're just going nuts. and they played a lot of new songs and a bunch of songs from the album, and everything was fantastic. And I said to my daughter, and my nephew was there as well, because we won 4 tickets. So we gave a pair away to my nephew and his friend. And I said, how can it be that these guys can form a brand new band, not have to rely on any of the songs from their past? They did not play one Radiohead song, nothing from The Eraser by Tom York, nothing from Atoms for Peace. It's an entirely new repertoire. They came back and they did a 20-minute encore. I mean, it was just fantastic. No cover songs. It really is a great live show. The lighting was fantastic. Johnny Greenwood,
cool.
you know, these guys, when you watch them play their instruments, they are not virtuosos in the sense of technical, you know, Eddie Van Halen type playing, or Jaco Pastorius. Tom York plays the bass through most of the show. But they are absolute masters of what they want to express on the instrument. Do you know what I mean? It's just this interface between them and their instruments just feels so natural. It's like an extension of their bodies and their souls. Just absolutely incredible. And Tom Skinner is one of the great drummers alive. Right
that sounds like a solid endorsement to go see the Smile play live.
I highly recommend it. Even if you were I won't say I was lukewarm on the record. I liked the record a lot, but I didn't like run out and buy it because I was like, okay, it's the guys from Radiohead. It would totally change my mind about the whole thing. I hope their next record sounds more like this concert.
That is so cool. Epsilon, I'm going to go to the chat for a quick second before we go to the next band. Epsilon Omega 5 says that the Smile is one of their favorite like bands right now. Ever actually. Yeah, Yo-Ya. My friend likes Radiohead. I can't stand Radiohead. Today I was forced to listen to Radiohead. Epsilon.
They're so good. What's not to like about Radiohead?
Epsilon Omega 5 says a hairdryer and You'll Never Work in Television Again are some personal favorites. I guess those
they did You'll Never Work in Television Again. I think that was one of the last songs they did, and they tore through it. It was awesome.
That's cool. And Edmund Byrne is saying next week, who I used to play music with, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Is saying next weekend we're heading to Bethel Woods, aka Woodstock, to see Culture Club in Berlin. The following Saturday is Willie Nelson and family at the same venue. Wow. I mean, that's bucket list artist right there. All right, well, let's move in here. And then
I'm actually wearing my Radiohead t-shirt right now, by the way.
Nice. All right, let's move on. Just because we're taking forever.
Yeah, let's move on.
It's a good conversation, but... all right, hold on a second. Speaking of which, segue. Yes, Boy George and Culture Club, which I'm going to on Tuesday night. Okay? We got Culture Club, which is basically Boy George and Culture Club minus the drummer who Boy George had an affair with, who he doesn't like anymore, I guess. And then, but I say, hey, whatevs. But still, it's a good chunk. Like that guy, that black dude is the original bass player guy. And I think the other guy is too. And then
Howard... I don't learn these names, dude.
I don't know their names. I'm sorry, guys. But I love Culture Club. I mean, when I was a youngster and they were on MTV, I loved Culture Club's music videos and, by extension, those singles from their first couple of records.
Singles were very, very catchy.
And so I've seen some of the clips of them playing live, and it looks good. That's a full band. Howard Jones, obscured by the chat there, is the other opening artist. Howard Jones still sounds great. I've been watching videos online of him playing recently. He plays with 2 other guys who are electronic music artists. So one of them has an electronic drum kit in addition to their whatever their keyboard setup is or whatever. You can't really tell exactly what they're playing. It's in an enclosure, and they have like neon lights on the outside of it. But they're playing, and you realize as you hear it, you're like, oh man, I wish. At first I was like, oh man, I wish it was a real band, quote unquote. And then I was like, hold on a second, this is exactly how he made the music. They're like replicating it, and he still sounds good. Berlin, they take my breath away, Jeremy. I don't know what else can be said about that band. I mean, it'll be interesting to say they're going to come out and say, "Thank you, we're Berlin. We're going to play Take My Breath Away. Take My Breath Away." But first, we're going to play a couple other songs.
Yeah, here's 8 other songs that you never heard before.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on. But that's going to be a good one, and that's Edmund
All right.
Gurr
Well,
is going to that show
report
at
back on that next
Woodstock.
time.
Yes, and then Kalela.
Kalela is, an avant R&B superstar. She is really fantastic. Her new album Raven was really, really good, and it was long awaited. I like all of her albums. Cut for Me might have been my favorite by her, but she's a really fascinating artist, and she's taken a journey, through coming to terms with her sexuality. With Actually, I'm not 100% sure of the gender pronouns. I'm sorry to say.
Right, right.
I should look that up. But her voice is a miracle. It's this airy thing. It's lighter than air, but strong as steel. That's what I said in a tweet about it. They just produce this sound and it just keeps going. She never gets out of breath. She never seems to get tired. She was, they were having a fantastic night too. They were just so happy to be there. The set was arranged in two parts with a pianist, an acoustic piano player, the first part. The only annoying part about that was that somebody behind me thought this was time to talk through the entire opening part of the set. They might
Wow.
even be heard on my video. I haven't watched it yet. I took a video. So I thought it was really great to see this acoustic set. And then the DJ and the electronic music starts kicking in. No band, just backing tracks. But she was very flexible they were very flexible with it. At one point, the song started and they said, no, 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 I don't like this version. Do the remix. And then the sound changed. So there was a bit of spontaneity to it. And the crowd was enraptured. Everyone was in the palm of their hand throughout
That's
the
amazing.
show. It was a hot night. It was a sweaty night.
It was this was in
There
this
was
was
no
yeah.
encore.
What was the
There was
venue?
this was in Prospect Park at the Brick
Yes.
Summer Stage, Nina Horn Band Shell.
It's because I
Brick
think that they
Celebrate
were
Brooklyn.
I literally think that there was an article about the show in Billboard magazine. Like that's how legendary a
I need
performance it
to
was.
read that. And opening was Liv, who's also an avant-garde R&B artist.
Hmm.
Their show
What do you
was a
mean
little
by
less,
avant-garde R&B for
yeah.
those people like me who don't know what that means?
Well, they're taking off on things like Janet Jackson, but they're bringing it to a more contemporary sound, electronically speaking. So it
Right.
doesn't sound like, and it's definitely got an R&B vibe, but it's heavily electronic, and the song structures are not conventional.
Hmm.
So there's just a lot of creativity and influences from outside, but you can
Yeah.
definitely
Okay.
hear the connection to things like Janet Jackson or Erica Badu
Oh,
or
that's cool. I mean, that sounds fun. That sounds like the potential for really fun things happening is high.
so. And one thing I appreciated, there was no encore. They just played through until the curfew, and then the lights went on, and we all tried to
That's
find some air
nice.
conditioning
Yeah. No.
somewhere.
No. 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 Fake. Oh, we're leaving. No, don't leave. All right.
They
Let's move
did.
on
They
to the
did.
end. Go ahead.
They did
No
change
talk.
clothes. They did a costume change, get a little more comfortable at one point between the acoustic set.
Okay, that's cool. That makes sense. All right. Now,
Just
speaking of
wonderful, wonderful
this
stuff.
band always does costume changes mid set, mid show. Just kidding. Of course, it's the Dead Milkmen, um, who Joe Jack has been on the show many times, as you guys know. He was actually the first real. I was telling Jeremy before the show, he was actually the first real guest I ever had on the show, and so to speak, like a celebrity,
Hmm.
and he. And he's come back multiple times. He's really a great guy and a great guest, and as a result of that and of the fact that I love Dead Milkmen and have since I was a teenager, I always have Dead Milkmen stuff embedded in the set. So I'm sure you've noticed that. All right, so but in any case, they have a new record out, which is called Quaker City Quiet Pills,
Is that
and it
right? I did not know
yes,
they were still actively making new music.
They have a new record out called Quaker City. I have the Philadelphia Red vinyl, which was a pre-order, which sold out. So I have one of those,
Yeah.
but you can still get it. The record. They do all their records. It sounds good. It sounds very. It's a callback to their earlier days in a sense, but it's very funny. Songs like "Grandpa's Not a Racist, He Just Voted for One." Are just fantastic. I don't have the list of songs right in front of me, but it's a good record. It really is politically humorous and insightful, and they still have their chops. But
Are they going out on the road?
They are not. They did a show. They do shows around Philly and in New England. So I'm trying to get them to go on the road. But they did a show notably in Laurel Hill Cemetery in Philadelphia, which was a sellout crowd that were sitting on graves. It looked like in the photos I saw, and
Wow.
and they played their they had it's kind of like one of those cemetery parks that we have one in Atlanta too, and I'm sure you have many of them in New York, and it's like they're trying to basically build it as a nonprofit and have events at the park and stuff like at the cemetery kind of
Cool.
thing. But in any case, their records now are through Giving Groove, which means that every time they have a release, they actually don't profit from it. The money that is generated above the production cost goes to a charity if they choose. And right now, I think this record it's a supports musicians in Philly kind of charity. But in any case, yeah. So I recommend Quaker City Quiet Pills and Dead Milkman. If you're watching this, please come down to Atlanta. I'm actually considering flying up to Philly to see a show. All right. Now that we've gotten through all that, let's crank. We've been talking for too long, so we need to move on to this to this message or this little quick interlude.
I'm an entertainer, man. Bouncing across the nation. That's your vibration. It's a Dennis Ball show sensation. Punchlines are fire. Got that burning desire. Formulation.
There it is. Just a little jingle, jingle, jangle.
There you have it. Roger Rivas, organist for Jason Mraz at times, but most importantly, organist for the Agrolites and the Long Beach All Stars. And Long Beach All Stars are touring right now, so go see them. They're playing
Great.
California Western.
I do want to just confirm that Kalela uses she, her pronouns. And I did not realize this, but the pianist in the opening set was Jason Moran, who's a noted jazz player. He was very good.
Very cool. All right, ballers. Let's see here. The king is coming. Oh yeah, Captain Love Handles just came back from Scotland and saw the King of England while he was there.
King Charles?
Were you Yes, King Charles.
Was he wearing a kilt?
Wow, what? Yes. Corey says, love Dead Milkman. Thank you, Corey. Yes, I know. I need to go see Yo-Ya, too. Maybe, Yo-Ya, we should both fly up to Philly and meet up and go to a Dead Milkman show. What say you to that one? When I have money. When I have my next 15 viral videos. All right, what's up, Edmund Barr? What do you say? Yeah, Lumineers. Okay, hold on a second. I have now here memes that are music memes. We're gonna get right into them, ballers. Say if you think if they're cool or drool. This one is a Superman comic panel in a Metropolis apartment one day. I want to hold your hand Man, those Beatles are a blast, and I always seem to enjoy their music more when I wear my personal Beatle wig. That's Jimmy Olsen, of course. I give it a cool.
I give it a cool. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I think so too. That was from the Beatles subreddit, of course.
Love it.
Vote in the comments, baller, in the chat, ballers, or the comments. Apparently, this is a George Bernard Shaw quote. Many a sinner has played himself into heaven on the trombone. Meaning people want to kill you if you play the trombone.
He was not a fan of the trombone.
I guess not.
You may or may not know, one of our greatest playwrights, or one of the world's great playwrights, was a music critic for many years.
So I'm going to give that a cool because it's educational as well as amusing. Okay, cool. We both gave it a cool. We got a cool from Captain Love Handles and for Epsilon Omega 5. Cool. Yes. This is an ad. John and Yoko move over for a record. Yes. Okay, so let's look at the fine print here. Archie and Edith made a record from All in the Family. And check it out. Here come Archie and Edith with their first single, Oh Babe, What Would You Say? It's from their brand new album, Side by Side, with their hit show All in the Family and important guest shots like the ones below. Carol O'Connor and Gene Stapleton are already #1 on the tube, and they're looking to be #1 in the charts. Gene Stapleton will be co-hosting the Mike Douglas Show on the week of May 14th in primary markets, and the week of May 22nd in secondary markets. Carol O'Connor, special 90-minute guest singing his songs on the Dick Cavett Show. That was probably a bit long, but I thought that was just a funny. I mean, and look at there's their record. Let me zoom in so we can see what their record is. Hold on a second here.
That album cover looks kind of terrible, I have to say.
Yes, exactly. It does. Hold on. And I love them. I feel like, yeah, here it is. An evening of songs and fun with the Bunkers, side by side, Archie and Edith.
I mean, I think both this and the Jimmy Olsen thing are mostly about the way music is marketed and used as a marketing tool, even.
That is true. But I'm giving it.
You gotta love All in the Family, and the way they sang that song at the beginning was. Yes. I never missed it.
Exactly. I'm giving it a cool, for the sake of the song, the show being great and them being great. But also because it's like I said, it's educational. I hadn't seen that before. And
it's funny. John and Yoko move over.
Is this true? I didn't even research it before we got on the air. Janis Joplin's manager learned about her drug problem. He took out a $200,000 life insurance policy on her.
I never heard about that. I've not read any books about Janis Joplin. I've listened to her music a lot. I know a little bit about Albert Grossman. He was a pretty hard-nosed businessman. You know, he was Dylan's manager for many years.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if he was like, whoa, I better protect my investment here.
Yes, Pirate Captain says, those were the days. That's right. All right. Terrified Greg Graffin promises to change name to Good Religion if plane survives turbulence. That's good, right? The Hard Times is it's like the Onion for punk rockers. They really have they get funnier and funnier as time goes on. They bring it. So that's a great one, Hard Times. Nancy Drew Mystery Stories, the mystery of how the hell did Rick Wakeman get in here?
That's so funny.
I know, I love that. I'm giving it a cool too.
I give that a cool.
Exactly. And did you give a cool to
everything's been cool
the
so
hard
far.
turn? Yeah, pretty good. I thought so too. Yeah, exactly. All right. We just got a few more here. Love will tear us apart, boat.
I saw this actually not that long ago. Very funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
Curtis.
Okay, we're getting
one of my ultimate heroes. Ian Curtis.
We got a from Captain Love Handles on 4. We got 3. We getting cools from Georgia Constitution.
Cool times 10.
Media. Yeah, we're getting cools all down the line. Cool. Good religion is pretty good, yes. Rick would be playing 2 keyboards, right? That's funny, Captain Love Handles. All right, hold on a second. Here's a fun fact. Bob Marley's wife, Rita Marley, was shot in the head during his attempted assassination, but she had dreads so thick they saved her life.
Yeah.
If that's not proof of Ja's loving hand, I don't know what is, Jeremy. I mean, man,
Yeah, that was some night. They were spraying bullets in there. Oof.
Jeez, that's crazy. I might need to make a video about that. Not to
Think
be
about the
more,
records
not
would
to
have
be
lost
more.
if they had killed Bob Marley that night.
I know.
No exodus, no survival, no uprising.
Oh man, and it just makes you. That's what makes it an interesting video. Is that experience informed his records after that?
Well, it did.
and-
Also, he moved to London. He made exodus in London, partly because he
Yeah.
needed to get Jamaica was too hot. You know,
Man.
politically speaking.
Wow, that was that one got heavy, but I thought it was cool because I thought it was cool that she survived.
Yeah, great singer,
mostly.
Rita Marley too.
Yeah, exactly. I love her. All right, hold on a second here. What's her big single?
Wasn't it one draw?
One draw.
Yeah.
One draw. Yes. This one goes out to you, Jeremy. Once Brooklyn is reached, sleep may be obtained.
Yes, it's a good way to rephrase it.
Okay, I'm giving it a cool. And
Cool.
thank you. 8 is dreadful. That's I know it is dreadful. Got some love handles. It is cool that she was okay, Corey. That's right. It is pretty cool. Epsilon. All right, we got one more. Marilyn the Stars. I used Face App to merge all the Beatles together and created this. Behold, the Beetle. Hold on, let me zoom in on the Beetle.
The Beatle is still not a bad-looking guy, but not as good-looking as the 4 Beatles singer.
No, he's not. In fact, he seems like a guy he doesn't seem exceptional at all.
Still is better than the guys in the Dave Clark 5, though.
I thought it was kind of funny. I give it a cool, but I'm still a little disturbed by the uncanny valley aspect of it.
Yeah, no, it's not a good thing. But I give it a cool just because it's so weird.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it also speaks to what I talk about a lot as the Beatles as one, 4 people who acted as one.
The Beetle.
Giving just a touch of human, the unity that humanity can achieve if it really tries.
And on that note, ballers, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for coming out, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And we will see you guys next month.
We'll be back.
And a 1, and a 2.
1, 2, 3. Tennis ball, tennis ball. The world outside is making me so sad. But when I watch your show, it seems the world is just a joke, and things don't seem so bad. Your multi-personality is worth more than your pedigree. You're rolling with the punches like a champ. With all your skill, you're sure when you like the room when you walk in.
That's just a lamp.
Tennis ball, tennis ball. You make me laugh. The world outside is making me so sad. But when I watch your show, it seems the world's just a joke, and things don't seem so bad.
That's just Possum Kingdom Ramblers. Bambi, Ricky, Jazz. It's a real Dennis Ball.